What if the Jedi found out that Palpatine was a Sith before the Clone Wars? What would have happened then? We pick up with the Jedi Council having a meeting with Palpatine after the assassination attempt on Senator Amidala. Let's begin. The afternoon sun filtered through the smog of Coruscant, casting muted light across Chancellor Palpatine's office. The Chancellor sat behind his ornate desk, while before him sat some of the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy: Master Yoda, Mace Windu, Plo Koon, and Ki-Adi-Mundi. "I don't know how much longer I can hold off the vote, my friends," Palpatine said, his voice carrying the practiced concern of a seasoned politician. "More and more star systems are joining the Separatists. If they do break away," Mace Windu began, but Palpatine cut him off. "No, I will not let that happen." Master Windu's expression remained neutral as he continued. "But if they do, you must realize there aren't enough Jedi to protect the Republic. We are keepers of the peace, not soldiers." Palpatine turned his attention to the diminutive Green Master, who had remained silent throughout the exchange. "Master Yoda, do you think it will really come to war?" Yoda closed his eyes, preparing to search the Force for guidance, but in that moment, everything changed. The perpetual hum of Coruscant ceased. The soft whir of the office's air circulation units fell silent. Even the endless stream of speeders outside the panoramic windows froze in place. Yoda's eyes snapped open. "What is this?" he asked into the unnatural stillness. "Let me show you," the voice whispered through the Force itself. And suddenly Yoda was no longer in the Chancellor's office. He stood witness to a cascade of horrors: clone troopers, their pristine armor reflecting blaster fire, marching across 100 worlds; the Jedi Temple, his home for centuries, engulfed in flames, while younglings screamed; countless Jedi falling to their own troops, betrayed in an instant; a dark figure rising from a river of lava, more machine than man; a battle station eclipsing entire planets before reducing them to asteroid fields. And through every vision, every moment of devastation, one figure remained constant: Palpatine. But not as he appeared now. Instead, a cowled creature with sickly yellow eyes, lightning crackling from gnarled fingers as he proclaimed himself Emperor over a cheering Senate. "This is what will happen should you fail to stop him," the voice resonated. "Who?" Yoda asked, though the truth already coiled like ice in his stomach. "You know," the voice replied simply. And he did. The realization pierced through centuries of Jedi training. The growing darkness they had sensed, the shadow clouding their vision of the Force, it all emanated from here, from the man who sat before them, wearing the mask of a concerned chancellor. "Who are you?" Yoda demanded of the voice guiding his vision. 5 voices answered in perfect unison, their words echoing through the Force: "Your fate." Reality reasserted itself with brutal swiftness. The office's sounds returned: the hum of speeders, the subtle shift of robes, the soft breathing of those gathered. But now, as Yoda's gaze met Palpatine's seemingly benign expression, he saw past the facade to the darkness lurking beneath. "Worse than war, I fear." "Much worse," Yoda replied, his ancient voice tinged with the echoes of futures yet to come. Even as he spoke, Yoda's mind raced with the implications of what he had witnessed. This was no ordinary Force vision. Something far more profound had reached out to him, and he would need time to meditate on its meaning. After the meeting dispersed, Yoda wound his way through the temple corridors. The vision echoed in his consciousness, not fading like typical Force premonitions, but remaining sharp and present. 5 voices, speaking as one, had torn through time itself to reveal the architect of the Republic's coming destruction. The pieces aligned with devastating clarity: the Military Creation Act looming over the Senate, the spreading Separatist movement, the growing shadow over their connection to the Force. All of it orchestrated by the very man who had just sat before them, playing the role of concerned chancellor. Once Obi-Wan and Anakin had departed on their assignments, Yoda called an emergency session of the council. The chamber grew silent as he shared what he had witnessed: the clone armies, the fall of the Jedi, the rise of an empire, and the true identity of Chancellor Palpatine. As Yoda concluded his account of the vision, the council members exchanged troubled glances. The ancient master's telling held them motionless as he described the 5 voices that had reached out to him. "Not a simple premonition, this was," Yoda explained. "A warning from beyond time itself. The Chancellor, a Sith Lord, he is." Ki-Adi-Mundi leaned forward. "This is a grave accusation, Master Yoda." "Saw it clearly, I did. The clone armies, the fall of our order, an empire rising from the Republic's ashes, all by his design." Mace Windu's fingers interlaced. "We cannot confront him directly without proof. If you're right, he's been hiding in plain sight for years. We need to investigate quietly." Later in Yoda's quarters, as the Grand Master was speaking with Obi-Wan's hologram, Mace Windu entered just as unprecedented news came through. A massive clone army on Kamino, supposedly commissioned by Master Sifo Dyas. Yoda's grip tightened on his Geimer stick. Behind this, the Sith may be, Yoda told Obi-Wan. With Kenobi already deep in this mysterious plot, he needed to know. Wait for us, you will. To Kamino, we come. After the transmission ended, Yoda turned to Mace. Beginning it is. The army from my vision, real it has become. Hours later, the two council members arrived on Kamino's storm-swept platforms, but Jango Fett had already fled. Obi-Wan briefed them on the tracker he'd placed on the bounty hunter's ship. Follow the bounty hunter's signal, Yoda told his fellow Jedi. They needed to know if this army's creation traced back to Palpatine. He turned to Obi-Wan. Go with Master Windu, you will. Here, investigate the army's origins, I must. As Mace and Obi-Wan prepared to trail Fett to Geonosis, they planned their approach. We'll infiltrate separately, Mace determined. If one of us is discovered, the other must escape with whatever intelligence we find. Meanwhile, Yoda turned to Lama Su. The Kaminoan Prime Minister explained how Master Sifo Dyas had commissioned the army on behalf of the Republic years ago. Yoda felt a deep unease. He remembered well his old friend's prophetic visions, his warnings of coming darkness that the Council had dismissed. Now, those same visions may have been twisted to serve the Sith's purposes. There's something you need to know, Mace told Obi-Wan, as their ships approached Geonosis. Master Yoda had a vision, one unlike any other. The clone army we discovered, the growing darkness. It's all connected. Connected how? Obi-Wan asked. The Sith are involved. For now, anything we discover goes directly to the Council on Coruscant. No one else. Mace's tone left no room for debate. Not even the Chancellor. They infiltrated the Geonosian Spire through separate maintenance tunnels. Mace made his way through the lower levels, eventually discovering a vast cavern housing automated factories. Countless battle droids moved along assembly lines, while Geonosian workers buzzed between massive machinery that stretched into the darkness above. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan tracked Dooku to a high chamber where Separatist leaders had gathered. Through concealed ventilation shafts, he observed as Dooku met with the Trade Federation Viceroy Gunray and other Separatist leaders. The chamber's acoustics carried their voices clearly to his position. Their discussion confirmed Gunray's involvement in the assassination attempts on Senator Amidala. More crucially, Dooku spoke of combining the Geonosian droid army with the Trade Federation's forces, revealing the true scale of their military preparations against the Republic. Obi-Wan's comlink lit up. I've found massive droid factories, Mace's voice came through hushed. 3 levels of automated assembly lines. They're manufacturing thousands of units. Contact the temple immediately. I'll continue gathering intelligence here. Obi-Wan worked his way back through the winding tunnels and out of the spire. His ship sat concealed behind rock formations in the rust-colored Geonosian landscape. His starfighter's long-range transmitter functioned perfectly. The confrontation with Jango Fett over Geonosis that had damaged it in another time never occurred. From his concealed ship, he transmitted the details of the Separatist army and Dooku's plans directly to the Jedi Temple. The Council's feed abruptly terminated as Geonosian warriors swarmed his position, disarming him and dragging him to the detention block. In the detention block, what began as an interrogation shifted into something far more revelatory. Dooku spoke of the Republic's corruption, but his words carried new weight for Obi-Wan. Mace had warned him of the Sith's involvement, had shared how Yoda's vision pointed to darkness at the Republic's very core. So when Dooku claimed a Sith Lord controlled the Senate, Obi-Wan felt the pieces aligning. The clone army's mysterious origin, the growing Separatist movement, the precise timing of each crisis. Through the spire's corridors, Mace tracked Obi-Wan's Force signature, until voices echoed through the stone. The detention block's rough-hewn walls did little to contain sound. He paused, listening as Dooku's refined accent carried clearly. A Sith Lord controlling the Republic, manipulating events from within. When Obi-Wan accused Dooku of being that Sith, the Count's response held something Mace hadn't expected: genuine fear. Dooku was speaking of another player, one whose influence reached deeper than the Separatist movement when he finally sensed Mace's presence. But the warning came too late. 4 Geonosian guards at the cell entrance barely had time to raise their sonic blasters before Mace's force push slammed them against the far wall. Their chitinous bodies cracked against the stone, wings crumpling as they slumped unconscious. The cell door groaned, metal shrieking as it tore free from ancient stone. Mace strode in, the force flowing through him like a current. His eyes locked onto Dooku, every word he'd overheard adding ground to Yoda's vision, to the growing certainty of who truly orchestrated this coming war. Is it Palpatine? Mace asked, lightsaber pointed at Dooku. With a measured gesture of his free hand, Mace released Obi-Wan's restraints through the Force. The magnetic bonds disengaged with a soft hum. Surprise flickered across Dooku's aristocratic features. "Your vision is not as clouded as I imagined." "The Council knows," Mace said. Dooku's fingers brushed the curved hilt of his own saber, but remained still. His diplomatic bearing shifted into something more calculating. "Then there may still be time. Together, we could destroy the Sith." "So you can seize control?" Obi-Wan asked, rubbing his wrists. "I seek only to excise corruption from the Republic," Dooku replied, his rich voice filling the chamber. "How did you learn about Sidious?" Mace's saber remained steady. "He approached me with promises of reform." Dooku's boot heels clicked against stone as he paced. "But I discovered his true nature. I cannot move against him directly, not yet." "Testify before the Senate," Mace proposed. "End this deception." "Impossible." Dooku's cape rustled as he turned. "Palpatine has cultivated their trust for decades. My status as a former Jedi would only strengthen his position." His eyes narrowed. "I have my own plans for dealing with Darth Sidious. He believes I remain loyal." "We cannot simply wait," Mace countered. "Consider your position." Dooku gestured to the corridors beyond. "There are thousands of battle droids in this facility. You could fight and die, or allow me to contact you when the moment is right." Mace exchanged glances with Obi-Wan. Even if they subdued Dooku, extracting him through the Spire's armed checkpoints approached impossible. "Very well." Mace deactivated his saber. The chamber fell into deeper shadow without the violet blade's glow. For several minutes they questioned Dooku's position. But each question yielded only diplomatic deflections, carefully constructed responses that revealed nothing of substance about his true plans. "Time will prove my intentions," Dooku said finally, manipulating hidden controls that summoned his Geonosian guards. The insects' wings created eddies in the stale air as they entered. As the guards led them through maintenance passages filled with the acrid scent of ion emissions and heated metal, Dooku remained in his chamber. His calculated risk had paid off. With the Council aware of Palpatine's true identity, his master's careful plans would crumble. No point in maintaining that particular deception. Better to position himself as a potential ally for the time being, one who could help them eliminate Sidious. The Geonosian escorts guided them through automated security checkpoints, past endless rows of battle droids standing in powered-down ranks. Following the winding exterior walkways, they made their way down the Spire's outer shell until they reached the landing platform where their fighters waited. Their engines hummed to life as they lifted from the rust-colored platform. Once they cleared the atmosphere, they jumped to hyperspace, both knowing they'd had no choice but to accept Dooku's terms, surrounded as they were by his forces in the heart of Separatist space. The Jedi Council convened in their chamber as Coruscant's evening dimmed the sky. Mace Windu and Obi-Wan had just finished detailing their encounter with Dooku, while Yoda shared his discoveries from Kamino about the clone army's hidden neural chips. "These chips," Yadimundi began, "they were meant to enforce specific orders." 150 contingency orders, Yoda confirmed. "A trap for the Jedi, I sensed they were. Removed from all clones, I have ordered them to be." "And this Tyrannus who ordered their installation?" Plo Koon asked. Yoda described his intense questioning of Lama Su, who had initially been reluctant to discuss what he considered classified aspects of the project. Only after considerable pressure did the Kaminoan Prime Minister reveal that, after Sifo Dyas's death, someone using the name Tyrannus had taken control of the clone project, presenting himself as a Jedi Master. Tyrannus had provided the Kaminoans with specialized neural chips of his own design, along with 150 contingency commands. He'd convinced them these were essential safeguards, both to protect against rogue Jedi who might try to seize control of the army, and to ensure the clones would execute complex military directives without hesitation. The Kaminoans, with their clinical approach to genetic engineering and limited understanding of Jedi matters, had accepted this explanation as perfectly logical for what they believed was a legitimate Republic military project. Mace Windu's fingers interlaced. Between Master Yoda's vision and Dooku's revelation about Darth Sidious, we now know Chancellor Palpatine is the Sith Lord behind the growing darkness we've sensed. We must act quickly, but carefully. The Council discussed their strategy deep into the night. By morning, they had their plan. Master Windu, along with Kit Fisto, Sacy-Tiin, and Agen Kolar, approached the Republic Security Council in a closed session. In the Security Council's chambers, Windu presented their evidence, patterns of manipulation stretching back years, the mysterious death of Sifo Dyas, the convenient timing of the clone army's creation, and the dark presence they'd sensed centered on the Chancellor's office. The Security Council took the claims seriously. Without a galactic war to bolster his position, Palpatine's careful manipulations began to unravel. After hours of deliberation, they agreed to remove him pending a full investigation. The Security Council's decision needed to be handled delicately given Palpatine's position. The solution: house arrest at his villa on Naboo, heavily monitored while the formal investigation proceeded. Palpatine accepted this with his characteristic political grace, even as fury boiled beneath his careful facade. His plans were crumbling. No emergency powers granted, no war to exploit. But he remained confident in his ability to maneuver, to turn this setback to his advantage. He never saw Dooku's betrayal coming. A small fleet of unmarked cruisers appeared in Naboo's atmosphere without warning. Their bombardment reduced Palpatine's villa to rubble before Republic forces could respond. When investigators combed through the wreckage, they found scattered evidence suggesting the attack came from the Pike Syndicate, apparent revenge for Palpatine's recent trade route restrictions that had hurt their spice operations. The Sith Lord's overconfidence in his control over his apprentice had proved fatal. Dooku had orchestrated the attack through criminal proxies, eliminating his master while maintaining plausible deniability for the Separatist movement. With Palpatine's death, Count Dooku found himself sole master of the Separatist movement, but the landscape had shifted dramatically from his original plans. The clone army, stripped of its hidden control chips, no longer served as the perfect weapon against the Jedi Order. Without that advantage, open warfare would be costly and ultimately futile. But Dooku held one final card that the Jedi remained unaware of: the Death Star plans. The Count realized that patience, not conflict, would serve his ambitions. He needed only to maintain peace long enough to construct the battle station in secret. To that end, he approached the Republic with terms for cooperation: autonomy for the Separatist systems, in exchange for peaceful coexistence. As this tenuous peace took hold, construction began in the unknown regions. Yet the Force had shown Yoda glimpses of this superweapon in his vision, and he remained watchful for signs of emerging threats. The Republic maintained its clone forces in reserve, though production had ceased. Meanwhile, Anakin and Padme's relationship built more slowly in this time of peace, and Anakin kept both his hands, having never faced Dooku in combat. Master Yoda was arrested for practicing the ancient Jedi technique of insider trading.